Well, it's been a long afternoon, a long day actually. With this last panel, I think a lot of people want to know about innovation because all throughout the day we have been talking about how ICT can actually help scale, right? So each of your programs is very diversified and different. So maybe I can start with ICRISAT, if you don't mind, Dr. Kiran. ICRISAT, maybe you can explain it a little more openly in terms of who your target users are. Are they the farmers themselves? Are they the knowledge workers? What would you suggest be the ideal?
Yeah, I think what we have been working on is setting up the environment for doing business. So these are, this is a technology business incubator. In our case, we call it agri-business incubator. And one of the major problems in agriculture, especially sustainable agriculture or subsistence agriculture, is you don't have the right technologies reaching. In a big country like India, you used to have extension services. Every university had extension services, but that extension service does not work anymore. So one of the best option now is, for the institutions to come up with the agribusiness incubators where you can actually train startups, young youth, women, especially looking at, I was just wondering, if I can contact the gentleman here and see we can promote indoor agriculture actually, especially in the case of vegetables and fruits. So idea here is to set up an environment. It's a risk-free environment. You don't have to, invest a lot of money. You come to an incubator, you test your ideas, or sometimes the incubator can provide you technical guidance. We can also support in terms of providing startup funds, or by being, in an incubator, you get a new address actually. So which means the financiers or the venture capitalists also have a confidence that this money will be well spent under the supervision of an incubator. So that's the target audience. This also provides an opportunity for the institutional technologies to find a way out. Because many times if you look at the public sector research, I think we do a great job with research. A lot of work happens, but there is no outlet for this research. There's no innovation, because research finding is one thing. How do you really package it to take it to commercialization? So that's, I think, the type of environment we are looking at. And by having many such incubators, you can actually do co-business incubation, which means you're providing an ecosystem to the startup community. Especially I'm looking at youth, especially youth coming from the villages, rather than running and getting into IT business or data entry. They can actually start a new business of their own. But they just need some guidance. So.
Okay, thank you. So when we're talking about incubators here, we are talking about agribusiness incubators. Coming from the ICT industry, we talk about incubators and startups in a different format. So I just wanted to clarify it to the users here, exactly what we mean by incubators.
So just a quick, in fact, the incubators started about 40 years ago, and some of the most popular incubators were in IT and pharma sector. Globally. In the case of India, I think we were one of the first incubators which started 14 years ago. So incubators, in the case of agriculture, they provide you, the field space, the labs, or also any technical advice. There might be a new technology where we need an intervention from, for example, a horticulturist, or an agronomist, or an entomologist. So we can take the services of these scientists to support the entrepreneur. And so incubator actually is just like a medical incubator, where a premature baby is born. You spend, 10 days, 15 days, a month, depending on what needs to mature the infant so that he can face the world. Same thing is happening in the incubator. It's still a technology which needs to be packaged properly, and so that it can go and meet the market and actually not fail there. So that's the whole idea of an incubator, basically.
Okay. With that, I think I would like to jump to Josh. Okay. We were discussing here, and I sort of asked you earlier, but I'd like them to understand. Hydroponics to me is something that I would never ever get into, because automatically I think, oh my God, it's going to be too expensive to do such a thing, even for the house. So maybe you can expand on that a bit.
Yeah, I don't think NFT or hydroponics has to be very expensive. Indeed, there's an initial cost. Yeah, so there's an initial investment. But if you're talking about cost price of the product, I believe you will be cheaper than growing in the soil. It makes it, the investment will be for much longer term. But in final cost price will be cheaper.
That was a very short answer. Okay, I'll get back to you on that though. Next, crops, okay? You are an ICT company that has actually succeeded to a greater degree. So as a startup, this time on the ICT side, what do you feel has been the most, well, the biggest problem you've encountered in the rollout of your platform?
Hello. Yeah, I think talking to the farmers is one of the, reaching out to the farmers and asking them to use this app is a challenge. We started this app, and the first thing that we did is we did a Facebook advertisement, but nobody downloaded the app. So we decided to get some salesmen and really go into the ground and find all of these farmers and sign them up one by one, explain to them how this app works. And of course, also the challenge also of talking to buyers, that we have an app here that they can buy from, products that they can buy from, and using our platform where they can transact. So these steps are quite challenging in terms of getting our product out in the market.
So basically, the problem is getting your market to actually use your system.
Yes, because it's something new. This is something new. Yeah.
Yes. Please, I would like to have the panelists react. So please have your microphones with you to just raise your hand and react to whatever anybody's saying.
Yeah, just to complement that, I think that was a great question you asked, and this is what the incubators are doing. We get a lot of IT guys, on a daily basis to us, who know, how to develop an app, how to design, but how do we fit in agriculture? I think that's what we provide in the incubator. We provide an interface with our farmers. I was talking about Farmer Producer Organization, which is an organization encompassing anywhere from 500 to 1,000 farmers. We are trying to collectivize agriculture. So there is a backward integration within the farming community, and there's an outward communication with the market and with the input markets, both output market and input market. So that's where I think some of these incubators have played a big role. In our case, we have at least half a dozen or even 1 dozen such entrepreneurs, who are fresh from the IT industry, IT background, and want to do something in agriculture. They've done enough of those Olas and other things, but there's much more bigger opportunity in agriculture, and I think that's where we're trying to bring the two together, and provide the interface in terms of where do you work, where the agriculture markets, as well as the farmer communities, basically.
So with that, I'll move into, did you have an, yes?
Yeah, just to add that one, the marketing channel, one of the most important factors, how do we establish the linkages between the government institutions and the financial institutions? And mostly to establish these linkages, what is our product and what's the challenges we are addressing that one? If we could build our products based on that needs, then it would be very easier. When we developed this Green Phablet, that app, we did not go to the people, rather we established linkages with the non-governmental organization, government organization, and the private sector. Non-governmental organizations, their interest is microfinance. They would like to hear some services, weather and health. We created 12 different categories. We started sending 5 free voice messages. When you say free voice messages, that's something incentive for them. But at the same time, there is another way to charge that one. If they use the prepaid, and that's another one. In the government case, what we did, we best utilized the subsidies provided by the government. We start recruiting the farmers. Whoever be part of this application, they only get the subsidies. And we started the farmer recruiting. Once you get the user base, they understand the importance of that app. Once they realize, oh, this is useful, we don't need to go to them. So those linkages are very, very essential.
So that's a super idea. I think if we can summarize what you've just said, is that if you use the app, then we will provide you the subsidies coming from government. So I think government should think about that because that's a very important experience and something that I actually adhere to. I do not believe in dole-outs. I believe in combination of partnerships and dole-out subsidies for success.
But other thing is why government needs to provide the subsidies to this app. They need to also see the win-win situation because this app also provides or brings the transparency. Who are the target audience for the government and how these subsidies reaching to the target audience. Essentially, technology brings the transparency, provides a win-win situation, all the parties who are involved in this one, then everybody is interested. Nobody provides, and even when we were working with a private organization, we wanted them to fund our application as part of corporate social responsibility. The first thing they asked us, we get better publicity if we fund in education. Why do we need to do it extension? We don't get bigger visibility. But we provided like maybe if you do this one, your customer base get increased and retention power of the customer is more. And that's how we brought that mobile company on board. And we named this application GreenSim. And they became the top company after they captured the rural market. Because capturing rural market is very difficult thing. So some of these ideas we need to understand what's the major challenges and problems. If we build the innovations and applications, it's a very easy thing and we get the success.
Actually, we were talking about big data earlier. It's been raised throughout, it was raised earlier on that we need to understand the audience or the person that actually is the farmer. The biggest problem I personally have encountered is from the government side, from big business side. We tend to decide what the farmer needs based on what we know. But the problem is, what's happening on the ground is actually very different from what big business knows. So what would you say your solutions could enhance or help in answer to that?
I can...
Let's give the other.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think as I mentioned, inclusive market-oriented development, you have to understand what the market really needs. When you're working with the farmers, you can't be producing a variety, which the market is not ready to take. So there's no point in public sector, especially developing new varieties and just dumping it on the farmers. You have to see whether the market is ready for it. Very small example, in the case of pigeon pea, the color will matter a lot. The cooking time will matter a lot. So you might develop a new variety which is highly insect tolerant and highly drought tolerant and everything else, but has no taste. So you have spent a lot of money doing R&D, but ultimately market is, doesn't want it. So you have to understand when a breeder is working on a new variety or when biotechnology, for example, they do all sorts of, I'm a biotechnologist, you do all sorts of fancy research, but unless you know whether something is meant for the market, it will not fly off. So you'll spend a couple of $1 million over the next 5 years and realize, you've done, wasted the money. So you have to understand the market, and markets are very dynamic, depends where you're working. It's very different in India, it's very different in Africa, for example. So you have to, spend a lot of time and constantly be in touch with the market. And I think, again, coming back to the support of my own agribusiness incubators, this is one of the things they should be monitoring all the time. When you're promoting entrepreneurs and new technologies, you have to be very close to the markets. Thank you.
Yeah, we as a seed breeding company, we see the market is not only the farmer. The farmer is one part of the chain, but we can make a variety, for example, a tomato variety. If we ask a farmer, what do you want? Yeah, very high yielding, that's all. If we ask a trader, he will say a tomato that is stone hard, so I can save it for 1 month and still can sell it. But if you ask a consumer, he will ask a very nice tasting tomato. So it's not only important to make something for one of these parts of the chain, everybody must be satisfied. And yeah, basically there it starts from. You cannot do it the other way around.
Well, we have a very short time left, so I'd like you to summarize, sorry. First and foremost, just 1 minute on how you feel your solution or whatever it is you have done should be used by ASEAN or can be used by ASEAN in order to improve the lives of the farmers, please.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, the technology business incubators is probably the way to go forward. The public sector must be investing in this one so that some of their technologies can move, through entrepreneurship. And this probably is the only way you can bring youth and women into the marketplace, where you can bring new technologies. Very importantly, the value addition part, where women can be engaged. I had some examples about value-added products, where like products which don't sell otherwise, like sorghums and millets. People are going away from consumption. We have started looking at value addition so that these new products will create a new pull to the market. So creating that environment, that ecosystem of incubators, I think will go a long way in bringing youth and women back into agriculture.
Yeah, I think our app is able to transact within the ASEAN market and globally. So I think our solution is not only for the Philippines, so we encourage all farmers to sign up here, and also all the ASEAN farmers also to sign up here, so that not only they can do intertrade within local buyers and sellers, but also hopefully they can trade within each region in the ASEAN. So, and also within, a while ago you mentioned about how can the farmers have a better understanding, and how can the buyers also, or the institution have a better understanding of what the farmer is. I think our app also provides a direct messaging portion where they can directly talk and have a solution on how they can bridge the gap within the supply that they require.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the need of our knowledge parks and the knowledge labs and the knowledge networks. So we need to model that one. This is a wonderful platform because I often heard like several people talking about the ICTs and in support of agripreneurship. If we could model it, 3 players are important. How best we can bring the government and institutions as the resource partners, and the knowledge partners, the tech companies, our agri institutions, our universities as the knowledge partners to provide the technical know-how. We should have a management entity who could run that one, who could be recruited on a basis like maybe government can announce the RFPs and everything. Once we create this ecosystem, and whoever coming to the park, they can enhance their skill set, they can pilot their idea, and transform their idea into the business ventures. The networks actually provide them to expand or reach out to those individuals to better understand how they can reach their target audience. So this kind of parks or labs or knowledge networks are very important. This is happening in other parts of the world. But since it's the beginning here, it would be wonderful because agriculture is such an area, always the levels between the subject matter experts and technology people do not match. And this platform, this kind of platform creates an enabling environment to bring those knowledge partners or other stakeholders to one place. And we can say that's a one-stop shop, which actually produce like a factory, various innovations are the products.
Okay, yeah, with my presentation, I hope to inspire people. Inspire to show how sexy agriculture can be. Also to show that there are ways of growing to be less depending on climate. To show that there's a way to grow vegetables safe for consumption. Yeah, that's it basically.
Thank you. So if I can summarize as a whole, one could say that knowledge is power, okay? But content is needed to provide the knowledge. And more importantly, ICT is also needed to scale and especially to gain markets and new methodologies as well, which will promise better outputs in terms of produce. So as a whole, innovation, agriculture, yes, it is one, and we need to embrace both in order to actually scale up and for all our small farmers to actually succeed in life. Thank you.